Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode. Before we get into it, I want to briefly explain some of our interpretation of the Forgotten Realms campaign setting this campaign is based in. As you know, it has been established for quite a long time in the source books, in quite a lot of novels, and it's documented quite well in the Forgotten Realms Wikia. So there will be a lot of characters in this campaign who are, from a lot of different books, referenced in source books, things like that, but they probably won't be the most faithful interpretation because I haven't read all of the source books. I've read quite a lot, but no one can know everything. So most of the characters that you'll be meeting are my own original creations, and most of the locations that you go to, while they are written and already exist in the Forgotten Realms setting, it's our interpretation of it. So I'm writing most of this stuff out, basing it on what has already been written. So right now the party's in Succumber, and they're dealing with the Lord's Alliance Adventurers Guild. The Lord's Alliance is something that has been established for a long time, but I've created the Lord's Alliance Adventurers Guild because a nation that has so many adventurers wandering around would want to put them to work instead of having them be problems to deal with. So you can read the contract and sign it, as we did ad nauseum in episode 6. And as you complete more quests, earn more gold, earn more reputation, you can move up in tiers. Now there are 10 tiers, and there's been an 11th one tacked on in the last 10 years. And they are all medals, and they get an increasing value with each tier. So it starts at lead, scum tier, rat punchers, then copper, indium, silver, palladium, iridium, gold, adamantine, mithril, platinum, and infinitum. And most guild postings have at least half of these necklaces hung up on their walls and can rank up adventurers if they complete enough quests. So that's essentially it. That's all I wanted to mention. I'll do another video explaining more in depth some of the lore that I'm incorporating and some of the lore that I'm deliberately not incorporating. So, the Lord's Alliance Adventurers Guild, the Scarlet Palm, quite a number of other things are original creations, and you're not going to be able to find anything online, so a lot of what I'm writing is not going to match up with the existing Faerun setting. But that's alright. That's what a homebrew campaign is all about. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. Back to the episode.
Hey, welcome back. Every time we get some weird sound. Honestly, I don't even know if that went in. Alright, so the mic is on. We're good to go. Alright. So,
we don't even need sound effects.
Hang on.
Man, it's pretty honest.
Can you hear the movie in the other room?
The street is really busy.
Yeah, it's a pretty busy street. Alright, so, when we left...
Active revolt in Succumber. Which is kind of there.
Alright, so...
You did this, Kepesk.
When we last left off, you guys had spent most of the day attempting to make your way into the lower seeming basement, seemingly unbeknownst to the owner of the bar, the singing sprite, as you guys had attempted to make your way in, trying several times and failing to convince other people to help you, guards and townsfolk alike. Weren't able to get anywhere. Had made plans to take on the contract given by Emilio Romanitus to retrieve the Phyllobyletus, the bioluminescent fungi found in subterranean caves, in order to talk to him to possibly gain some insight about the situation. We rejoin us now. It is about a little after mid-afternoon, about mid-afternoon, and you guys are gathered in the center of town. There's some general bustle going on. It's one of the busier days. You see one or two of the people kind of milling about. Just about as many, almost as many halflings as there are humans. There's a pretty good mix here going on. So as you take a look at each other through the cool wind and the mid-afternoon sun on your foreheads, what would you like to do? Hi, kitty.
I'm gonna convince the guard to. No. Well,
The
I
cat
think we
is
should
on
call
the table.
it a day.
It is mid-afternoon.
Yeah, let's go to bed.
All right. So, what would you?
Passing notes, do you want to share with the class?
It just says half-breed.
Wow, that's really sweet.
I can explain.
Excuse me?
Okay.
Are you just
So-
sending race hate, just like subtly, like, hey?
We were at lunch the other day, and we were talking about how at school there was a phase everybody went through where they were like, I'm a vampire, I'm a werewolf. And he was talking about how they wouldn't sit next to each other if they were like a vampire and a werewolf. And
Is this real?
Yes. And somebody, what did I say?
You said it was like you're pretending that like little Jimmy is sitting
I'm
in
sorry,
class.
Miss Williams. I can't sit next to little Timmy because he's a fucking half.
Wow. Public education, ladies and gentlemen.
So you said like halflings, and I was like,
Wow.
Fucking
Sorry.
Sweet.
yeah, that happened.
That had to be shared.
Anyways, continue.
That's really, really something.
Nobody actually said that. I just said that.
Okay. That would be pretty funny, though.
I can't sit next to
Alright.
Okay. Well, we can't go to the guard anyways.
All right.
because the guard
What would you like to do?
does this.
Okay. I have a plan.
Smoke them out.
They're not in there.
Isn't there somebody in the?
No,
What's
they're
your
a
plan?
dead body. You know, smoke out this dead guy.
What's your plan?
Okay, so go to bed. And we come back tonight.
It's about 1:30.
We go to bed. And we come back tonight. And we rip up his floorboards anyway.
I
There's Buddy in there.
I don't think that
Well,
he's just going to ignore floorboards being broken open.
But we buy him new floorboards.
With what money?
The money that's in the
I
thing.
don't. Okay. I think maybe you might have something.
Yeah, I think he's got it.
Maybe in the realm of we could stay around the area overnight and kind of keep an eye out. Are you alright?
Why don't we?
Are we camping this place out?
What about the old ladies? Did we ever solve that problem?
What about the
Oh, yeah.
shrooms?
Shrooms and old ladies. We can kill two birds with one stone.
As you recall with your keen mind,
Yeah.
you remember. Shoot, you got me confused now. Amelior Amanitus.
Alanathar's from
Amelior
Elfendor.
Alanathar is from our last game, yeah.
Okay.
Amelior man with tits.
Shut up. Shut up. Even the names that aren't mine, you managed to twist like this. I'm gonna
You
eat
didn't
your
make-
face. No.
Oh, I assume.
Dude, there's so much like lore that's already existing
Really?
about Faerun that it's just like
Okay.
it's just there for the taking. It's great.
That's pretty top tier. Well, whoever made Alanathar Manitits, he sounds like.
That's cool,
Now you
actually.
got me fucked up with his name again.
What is it?
Hello, Mr. Amanitits. Oh, damn it.
Oh man,
Amelior!
Mr.
I dropped
Manitits.
by Mr. Amelior's, and it seems we're not going to be able to speak with him unless we bring him his mushrooms.
Let's go
Doesn't
get
sound
the
so
mushrooms.
I-
Where are the shrooms?
Okay. I want my money back, but I'm also willing to cut my losses because I don't think we can deal with something of that magnitude.
But
Mushrooms?
all right, it's my money, and I need it now.
Was your money taken?
All of. Oh yeah.
No, but that's not the point.
We could just continue making money.
Why don't we make a public announcement threatening to hang whoever stole our money?
That's
But then
people
they'll
don't know who we are.
They'll know that
They
we're
know
after
Hershey
them.
Norio. Also, some people know Orion. It's confusing at this point.
What if I just become another?
You've been giving fake names as well.
Just
That's not the point. That we're not discussing that here.
blue-haired
could
elven
discuss
man.
All right, as you,
Why?
your mode of personality
Just like-
transforms. As oh shoot, where's my dice roller? It's over here. Right there.
Nice.
As immediately like the people around you just kind of like react immediately to this as you remove your hat for a moment. Your true form is revealed, and then you put it back on with a new form in mind. As you just kind of like rapidly like change forms into a blue-haired
I'm gonna
element.
act like they're crazy. Just like, are you alright? Just to the general person in the city who jumped away.
The most immediate person you see is a halfling who's like looking up at you and just like,
You got a problem?
I'm gonna walk over and pat him.
not
on
in the
head.
streets, man, and he continues walking.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't get to pat him.
Guys, do you want to go discuss our plan of action somewhere more private,
Of
where
course!
we won't get harassed?
I'm just what am I gonna do?
Let's.
Okay, so, plan. We need to get into bunker.
Hey, boss.
Or fungus.
Lead the way.
Why is everyone looking at me? Okay.
No.
Let's go sit down somewhere. 7th string and harp. That seems to be our base at this point. Do you want to go
I'm the
sit,
yeet.
have a drink, talk? We already drank today.
I'm not
I'm gonna
moving
get-
out of my
Let's
blue-haired
go.
elf form because I will get
Your guys' timing is impeccable. As suddenly, the building that you are
collapses.
a few blocks away, you hear a colossal explosion.
Oh god!
As it sounds like you've never heard anything quite like it. Perhaps like a thunderclap if it went off immediately next to you. You look over and you see the dust settling across this small house that seems to be a few blocks to the left of here. As there's an immediate panic and people start rushing in various different directions. A few guards begin rushing up and investigating this singular occurrence.
I wanna go towards
I'm gonna run at it.
What are you
All right.
doing?
As you guys run towards
People
it,
might be hurt.
Argon kind of continues and follows with you guys. As you guys roll up to the scene, you arrive, seeing a few guards kind of gingerly taking a look about as one eventually musters up the courage to step across and over, taking a look down. As the dust clears, you see what appears to be a workshop that looked like a bomb went off in it, because one did. As you see a small white-haired... actually, I want both Orion and Kepesk to make a perception check.
My name is...
We don't have our character sheets.
You don't. I'm sorry. I was like, oh yeah, I'll give those to you in a minute.
Bad DM!
3 times.
Alright, we're gonna pause.
9!
Total? 9? Total?
12.
12. Alright, go ahead and make a history check.
Me?
You.
Whoop. Shit. Where is that? I don't remember if I'm good at that. Nope, 9.
9. Okay. You've seen gnomes before, but you haven't really interacted with them. Of the ones that you've seen, it's been from a distance. You know, the kind of the attire that they wear, the general shape of their heads and their ears is noticeable enough where you do recognize this is a gnome. He seems pretty elderly, as he's just kind of like on the floor, like stunned for a moment, and one of the guards eventually like realizes, "Oh, not again, Gerald!" and begins picking him up. He's like, "I'm sorry, what happened?" As they begin kind of cleaning off.
Wait, can I cast,
Yes, what do you want to cast?
word
Anywhere.
at him?
Yeah, what word do you want to say?
Um,
If you want it. Because since you're doing this in public, what word
Damn
do you
it,
want to say
Gerald.
to,
oh, it has to be a singular word?
well, it's a word that is healing.
Oh,
What are its components? It's just verbal, right?
yes.
Okay, what word?
Um,
Since you're in public.
uh,
You know Celestial, right?
yes?
It can be something in Celestial.
Okay, Can it be more than one word?
Healing word singular. Just for thought. Alright. You say thought in Celestial as you ha. And this kind of glowing symbol sort of appears in the air in front of you and kind of dispels in the general direction of him as
He's not undead, right? Okay.
No. As he just kind of seems to feel a little better, the nearest guard kind of like, hey, watch yourself. I'm like casting. Wait.
I healed him.
Well, that's nice, but don't do it in town. Anyway, Gerald again! As they just, you little bastard. We've told you about this 7 separate times. This is your 7th offense in a row. As they just kind of berate him for a little while. I'm sorry, it's one of my experiments. This is just how things go. As they just kind of very angrily start just leaving, and he's just kind of like sheepishly looking around and begins to start moving some of the rebels aside.
I'm gonna like, is it like blown apart?
All right.
Are there pieces everywhere?
Alright, now that you're closer and you can get a better look, it looks like essentially a little bit of the corner and most of half of one wall was just kind of blown outwards.
Okay, I'm gonna just start like picking up rubble and just kind of putting it back on where the wall should be.
As you guys kind of continue in mostly silence, Gerald, as you heard his name was, is just kind of like, oh, the kindness of folk these days, I suppose it isn't dead. Thank you. As you just kind of continue picking up the rubble for a little while. As eventually most of the area is cleared, as he just kind of, not as young as I used to be. Thank you for your help.
What's your experiment?
Is it magic you were playing with?
Oh, well, I dabble. Actually, this is my shop. Swift Hand Specialties. I'm a gnome. I do what gnomes do, a tinker. And on this particular day, I was working on that. And he points over to the corner. You see what appears to be kind of mounted on like a work table with several, what are they called? Clamps and vices. Vices, what I was looking for. Just holding this thing down. It is seemingly based on where the handles are and the general shape of it. It appears to be a small ballista that's just kind of sitting on his table. The cord is still gently vibrating, as you can just barely detect. Call that one Bertha, but can't actually lift her myself.
I'm gonna walk over to Bertha and try to. Is she still like tied down?
She's still viced in. Do you want to try?
I nod.
All right. As he begins walking over, I've been waiting for someone who could actually help me out with this.
Can I just like pause to adjust this scene?
He's undoing
You're like
buses.
7 feet tall, right?
I think I'm 6'8".
He's 6'8" or so.
Yeah, 6'8".
And this is a gnome.
Yeah. He's
Literally
pretty
someone
small.
like-
He's about halfling size. He is about he's about 4.5 feet tall or so. He has like a little kind of folded over gray cap just on the back of his head that's still pretty askew and has like a few singed parts from what seemingly just happened.
From Bertha.
Is he just kind of like, well, you see, I had an idea years ago of some simple crossbow designs, and those sort of escalated, as you can see here. And then I sort of adapted an idea that bolt head, it just pierces things. That's boring. You know, surely can do more than that. And he goes over to another table and he lifts up what seems to be like a small javelin. Not even small. It's a pretty solid thing. Those massive fletching, and at the end is just this large sphere that seems to be made out of glass. It looks like it's kind of like a potion bottle that was just kind of rammed in there. You see a few various like knickknacks that you don't quite understand. You see a little bit pieces of flint, but it's mostly filled with this black powder that you are unfamiliar with. Actually, Simon, go and make a history check.
Wait, that wasn't enough. That is a 15.
15? Yes, this black powder is black powder. It is a byproduct of certain mine shafts and various industrial kind of creationary things that nobody really does anything with. They know that it can be sometimes used to start fires, etc., but it isn't really utilized very much outside of that. It seems to be utilized in this instance to create a lot of fire all at once. As he just kind of brings it in. Upon further consideration, we probably shouldn't be firing this in the city. Let me get a normal one. And he sets it down and then picks up another one, which is just basically a javelin. Kind of loads it in. Now, it's rather difficult to actually use. Here, hold it. And he just kind of like shows you how to hold it, how to load it. Go ahead and make a strength check. 8. All right, you're having a very difficult time. You can barely even get the string like taut. It's just like no, not quite. Oh, it's all right. Well, we'll try this. As he like walks over to another table and like brings forward what seems to be like a block and tackle and a simple pulley system. As he attaches it to the string, and then walks over and begins winding a double-handled crank. As it just very slowly like.
So scary.
As it eventually loads in place, and he's like, "Alright, it's ready to go." See that building over there, where there's not really any people milling about? Give it a go.
Are we sure we should be doing this immediately after an incident?
There is
Oh, the guards won't bother me 2 times in a row, I'm sure.
They've bothered you 7 times as of yet.
That's no matter.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna just.
All right, make just a straight dexterity check.
18.
18. As you kind of aim it, essentially you're holding it from a handle up here, and you've sort of got your arm in like almost a sling, as it's just holding over, and you've got a handle here. As you kind of have to rotate it a certain way, as you, and it launches forward this javelin. It just kind of like wiggles through the air and just and shatters completely off the nearby building.
Oh no.
It's just, that was a good shot, actually. Well, I know it works, normally. The draw weight is a little intense. Perhaps I should... You've given me an idea. I'll come back to that. But, while you're here, you're in my shop, would you like to take a look around? I've got some interesting oddities, that you all might be interested in. You seem adventuring type.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is for Gerald.
Yes.
I have an idea to make said thing that you just set off better.
I'm all ears, and he immediately pulls out a small notebook.
Oh, okay, so was the javelin the one with the black powder?
There were 2 javelins, one with, one without.
Okay, if you took one of the javelins that has the black powder in one end, you could make a hollow stick and put what is it called? Like a wick of a candle. I can't think.
A fuse.
Through it, and then you could load it, and then light it, and then fire it, and then it would
A
light
late
and explode.
detonator. Interesting. Good against walls. Good siege tactics. I like the way you think. And he begins sketching a few things down. Well,
Do you play Clash of Clans?
do you want to play Gwent? As he kind of takes a look around. You take a look around. It's pretty nuts in here. It's mostly a workshop, but there do seem to be a few like completed things around. As he's just sort of showing you around. Now, this, as I said, was an escalation of a few other projects, but this was my first. As he pulls out what appears to be a crossbow, that it basically looks like there's a second crossbow just kind of grafted on underneath it. I call this one...
2 paper airplanes on each other.
Yeah. I call this one the double cross. Because it's a crossbow. There's 2. It's like double... Anyway. As he kind of like points over to a target and sights and... as he pulls
Bless you.
as he pulls the trigger, and 2 bolts simultaneously thud into a nearby wall.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, this was actually a Mark 1. I started working on a quadruple cross immediately after this. That one didn't go so well.
As he points over to another table, and there's just a mess of like strings and like partial bows that's just thrown together. It's just a mess. There's no structure to it. It looks like he like fired it once and it just kind of tore itself apart instantly.
It didn't really work, but I don't need this anymore. You've been very kind. Why don't you have it?
I take it.
All right, he takes it to you.
For your quadruple crossbow.
Yes, he pulls out the notepad
Take
again.
2 of these double crossbows and load 1 crossbow with the crossbow.
Crossbow, launching crossbow.
Yes. But, so then, like, someone's like, oh,
Listen,
you know.
listen. You have a beautiful mind. You're welcome anytime. Thank you.
This is my favorite character
He
already.
begins like furiously sketching and turns the page and begins sketching on another page immediately and just as he's just kind of like making calculations in his head,
I'm
continuing
so
to work.
glad that I did that.
I'm gonna need
Now-
the stats for that later. But
Yeah,
we'll work
that. It's a bit volatile. It's not perfect. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. But I have gotten something that's a little simpler.
And he points over to the black powder.
I have gotten something simpler than that. Call it the grape shot bolt. Essentially, it's like that, where it's more about fragmentation.
And he goes over and takes out 3 bolts that kind of have just a heavy tip on the end. Just kind of hands them to you.
Hold them carefully, but you can take these.
And the way it actually works is it's not directly stated anywhere in like the rules, but whenever you let's say you make an attack with a bow, you know, it is an attack action to fire it. But there is a sub action for that, which is loading it. There is a loading sub action for every attack. So it's load fire, load fire. Now with a normal crossbow has the loading property, which means you can only fire it once per turn, once per action, bonus action, because it takes so long to load. If you have the crossbow expert feat, you can ignore that. But with this one, essentially what this does is anytime you want to load that, it takes a load sub action. So if you wanted to fire it, you could fire it using 1 attack, and then you wouldn't have any more load actions after that. But you know, you could. It's weird. I'll explain it later, but I will give you a card for it.
Okay.
It's an interesting way to do it, but essentially what it's really good for is you can just make a quick attack that fires 2 crossbow bolts, essentially.
Okay. Really quick, how many grape shot bolts did he give?
3.
Did he give me any normal ones?
Not with it, no.
Okay, I'll
Now, I do have a few other odds and ends. Bertha over there is 100 gold if you're interested.
But it, judging by what you saw, you can approximate the damage somewhere between about, you know,
Mass murder and genocide.
about like between 5d10 and 4d12 or so. Definitely takes a while to load, but it does a lot of
That would
damage.
get the door open.
Hey.
Well, it would go through the door and then kill everything on the other side of the door, then kill the door beyond that.
And we get arrested.
It's the Barrett 50 cal of the D&D universe.
I do have a few other things, odds and ends.
I have no money. Oh no, I'm sad.
I call this the Mangler.
As he pulls out what seems to be a normal longsword, and he kind of like Indian rug burn twists the handle as it as 2 sides of the sword like swing upwards and out forward, and then down into place. And actually, there is a diagram I have of that.
as he
God.
will show you.
I want to know.
I will. You know what? I could have you like draw all of this, but I won't. What I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna start including sketches in just straight up MS Paint that I do, and they're gonna be awful. So that's how it works right there. Is it just kind of extends like that. Now, yeah, this will make sense because I'll put a graphic in.
Yeah.
But that's how it works.
Yeet, I see.
As he just kind of pulls it out.
I've never
This
been
is
so
the bangler.
As he kind of like
The
shows it to you.
Mangler or the Bangler?
The mangler.
Oh.
It's a bangle.
And essentially what this does is when it is transformed, normally it's just a normal longsword. So if you two-hand it, it does a D10. But if you activate it as a bonus action, it does a D12. So it straight up increases the damage, but it is a little bit volatile. There's a chance that it could collapse back inwards into
I
itself.
feel like it's the equivalent of when you're fighting a boss and they get mad, and then there's like.
It's like the second form, yeah. It would be pretty intimidating to just cha-ching, as he kind of takes you around.
This one I call the tangler.
As he shows you what is essentially
Just twisted.
just kind of a net bomb.
This one is the dangler.
As he shows you what's basically a winch. As he just kind of takes you through and shows you through various things.
Do you have a
Now the
handgun?
dangler is 35 gold, as is the double cross. But you know, that's how it be. Can I interest you in any
I
of
have
this?
0.
Well, that's
We
you
got-
can
we
have the
got-
double cross.
Thank you. We
Please
got
enjoy.
robbed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
In fact, we could use your help. We know
Just
it
an
is-
old gnome. How can I help?
There's a lot of money. There's a lot of.
Actually, though, there's a lot of money in a bunker underneath the bar,
Ooh.
and we need help getting in.
Why are we involving this man with
This is
Hold on.
sounding very illegal very quickly. I'm really not interested
He
in
said it bad.
any kind of
He doesn't
illegal
use words.
activities.
We're not
Right.
involved with it.
We didn't.
It's
use
I'm
that.
not robbing a
business.
bar.
No,
I'm
just-
that's
it's
not-
alright.
It's not part of the bar.
Guys.
It's
I'm okay.
Please.
I'm gonna put my hand over
Don't-
Ryan's face.
I don't want to hear any more. You're very nice, but I don't want to pull off any heists. Those days are behind me. Please.
Okay, hold on. So I gotta
do you
formulate
know
this in my
a
head.
guy?
No, please take up conspiracies elsewhere. It's not something I'd like discussed in my shop.
How do you feel about thieves?
More and more like you
Do
should
have any
maybe
daggers?
leave. Yes.
Like smaller, not bigger weapons. Do you have smaller?
He reaches over to a back shelf.
He stabs himself.
Look at this one. As his optimism briefly returns, as he clicks a button on the handle, and it just as the blade just kind of thunks into the ceiling.
Oh.
As he just kind of shows you.
Does
It's
it come
just
back?
holding a dagger hilt. No.
Does it,
You can
No, you have to get it
how
yourself.
much is it?
15 gold. 15 gold.
No!
Not again! He's back! Kill him! He's a gnome Oni.
That is such nonsense.
A
Oh
gnome.
my God.
But we had a campaign before this. That's all you need to know.
I am
It'll be
little,
fine.
little bit too poor for that, but I will come back to give you more ideas.
I can just show you how to do that
You.
magic.
Are welcome anytime. Anytime. I mean that. Just don't talk about thievery anymore, please.
How about the Mets, though?
Well,
Put it out. Thank you.
All right.
You in good favor with the guard.
Be careful with your experiments.
no
Yes.
promises.
Yes. Be careful.
Farewell. The door's over there.
I'm a you.
I
I'm
leave.
gonna walk
Bye.
I'm gonna walk. Yeah, Sam. I
Is
see
he-
the hole.
As you make your way out, as you just kind of like hop over it, he starts like taking out some like already constructed plywood as if this has happened before, and he begins like sliding it into place. And
You can't
it
cast
closes
mending.
behind you.
I know what you're thinking. You can't cast mending.
I
Are
mean,
you sure?
you make. All right.
Can I try
You
really hard?
all right. Thing is, you could repair it brick by brick, very slowly, but not all the bricks are intact. So you'd essentially be playing jigsaw. You'd be playing with a jigsaw that's made up of Tetris pieces from a Jenga tower that got blown up.
Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, it would be pretty difficult and would take a while. But
We're
you
gonna
could do it.
anyway.
Like it's doable, but it's not gonna be a perfect wall. As the slat kind of closes behind you.
You really don't understand your guys' interest in weaponry.
That was kind of cool.
I just kind of slowly
It's
stroke the
interesting.
double cross while muttering
Can I hold
quietly and draconic to
I can
myself.
do most of that stuff with magic.
Who wants to do that? Can I hold it?
I nip it. And I don't
Okay.
just-
Can we share? Can we take turns?
I
Never
just
mind.
kind of slowly
Kepesk,
push it into
you
my
need
bag
to
and like
share.
hold my bag very tight like
Alright.
a small
You
child.
did just learn about possessions.
Control your pet, please.
This is my pet. He points to Pooh.
I'm gonna take the double cross back out and load a bolt.
Oh no.
All right.
Oh,
I'm just oblivious to this. Just like
I'm
You're-
leveling it
you're-
immediately at
you're loading,
Orion.
You're aiming a weapon at him in public. That's a bad thing in society.
Argon like
Do
holds
we
a
have to
dagger
have
next
this
to the
great
next to the
argument again?
string of the crossbow. Just gonna like
Okay, I like drop it away and put it back. And then I
Okay.
punch Orion immediately.
okay, make a strength check.
Oh,
I rolled the
dodge
slap.
and-
No,
20.
20.
Oh!
Street.
As you just kind of like immediately to the chin, and you're just kind of like taken aback as your hat is knocked backwards temporarily as your form flickers for a moment. You gather yourself, pull it back over, get a few weird looks. All right, so are shrooms or what?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Shrooms.
I keep my distance from Orion as much as possible
Alright.
for fear of a mauling.
By about this time, two guards that seem to be dressed in the normal attire of the Lord's Alliance come walking up to you. Takes a look at you, Simon. Looks down, looks at a paper, looks up. Are you just... Bless you.
Thank you.
Are you just Simon?
Yes.
Captain Hoffman wants you at the guild outpost.
Okay. Yeah.
And your
Yes, sir.
party, too.
All right.
Have a nice day.
No.
Bless you. As he heads off. Gesundheit.
Starts speaking in fluent German.
What's the kid's name
Eigenflügel.
from the Terminator?
Have
John
you
Connor.
seen John Connor?
Are
you
you
seen
John
this boy?
Connor?
Are you
Shing.
just Connor?
Alright, so. Do you head?
Yes.
You head.
I follow you.
Alright.
Wait, I'm still blue-haired elf.
Yeah, you're still blue-haired elf man.
Net 20.
Ooh, the rain. That'll
raining?
smoke out any demons.
What?
No, it's raining in real
Oh,
life.
it's raining. I thought you said the rain.
That helped so
No.
much, Dan.
Yay!
Your
Alright.
blinds are closed and you lifted
Was
the
that
curtain.
your shirt? Lift up your sleeve. Oh,
What?
I guess it was your shirt. I thought you had a tattoo for a second.
Oh,
I was like,
alright.
What?
No, I don't.
Damn.
Thanks for checking.
Darn.
Alright. As you guys plug in my laptop. As you guys, that was the right one, okay. As you guys make your way to the guild outpost, you arrive at the scene, see a few people milling around. You see the same kind of dark skin with a long sword strapped over her back, hair in like a tight ponytail. Lady who you've seen before. It was just kind of like, as you approach, you can hear angry yelling from inside, and she appears to be pounding the desk repeatedly over the half-orc gentleman who's just sitting there, like, go on, as she's just talking, and then eventually spins on a heel and just kind of stomps out very, very deliberately.
The girl or
not
or
the girl, not looking past you as he just kind of from inside.
I'm gonna eat inside.
All right, as you head inside.
I was informed I was needed, and my party.
Yes, well, I've heard some things.
Good things, don't worry. Spoke to the gentleman who had lost his daughter. Good things. That was a good thing that you did. I respect that. You helped Gerald. Personally, I don't like him, but it was the thought that counts. One way or another, I've deemed you worthy of an interview. Please, all of you, take a seat. There's 3 seats.
I'm gonna stand. I'm gonna specific. I'll stand.
You're a gentleman.
So I'm gonna stand.
I've never seen you before.
Take off your hat.
Ooh.
I just kind of like flick the hat off my hand.
Alright, as the hat flicks off.
I've never seen you before either.
Wait. I'm gonna Hershey Oreo.
Okay.
You just name all of them.
Have you presented a false identity to the guild?
No, I consider myself a person.
He has.
No,
Yeah.
just Simon.
Just be honest.
My name is Orion. It's backwards. Norio. Hershey is Irish. Yeah.
That's really stupid. But you know what? I respect that. I was similar in my youth. You know what?
You're
You all 3 sit. You stand.
He puts his leg up on the
Oh!
Do I look like a centaur to you? Good. All right.
I shall.
He pulls out a ledger and begins, like, writing a few things down.
So,
Aha, I'm not actually part of the Adventure Skills.
a few questions for you.
Oh, okay, questions, sure. I'm Orion. This is Orion. This is Hershey.
Or elegant blue-haired.
This is blue hair, man.
All right.
That was a lot of page flipping.
I have a big ledger.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
What monsters have you killed?
Just in our lives, or
Goblins.
my demons? No. Yeah, goblins.
Goblins, a bugbear a while back.
Why?
We were attacked, and
They had trolls, right? Was it trolls?
trolls?
Trolls that killed the entire...
We didn't kill them.
No, but like,
I'm
we
blanking.
tried.
No,
The
we-
of
I have-
your whole adventurers group?
Simon didn't say that. He has a perfect memory. I was blanking. Also, yeah, they were giants. They were
Have you
giants,
helped
not
anyone?
Yes.
Yeah,
Where?
Here.
here. And in life.
trolls.
I fed a bunch of homeless people.
I freed a guy from some goblins.
How have you made Faerun a better place?
We returned
by
a baby
being
from
here.
a witch.
Yes, we did. I've tended to the forest for years.
Fair enough.
I ate a goblin.
Consider yourselves promoted from Scum tier. Welcome to Copper.
He points to the wall.
Welcome to
It
come
felt like I
here.
was in a job interview I didn't prepare for.
Yes.
Alright, pass up your necklaces.
And he takes them all from you and passes down.
Now you
Oh,
will have to revise your contract.
cool.
as he pulls out another copy of the contract, hands it over to you.
Please sign your real name.
He hands it to you.
Yeah.
Do you sign? Okay,
Yeah.
you sign your real name.
I won't
takes it
put
back.
Helium Morton, but I'll just put...
All right,
What is that?
your last name.
Oh.
Welcome to Scum tier.
No!
As he pulls out,
Don't worry, your evaluation will come soon. Anyway,
He's
Do
gonna be
good.
forever one below us for like just an awkward amount of time.
well,
I'm a yeet.
all right.
Hey,
yes.
what was that? I'm just curious. What was that situation with the lady that left in a house?
That's Regina. She does that. She's got a temper like nothing else.
I kind of reach over the counter.
It was about scarecrows. It's
Oh, I see.
a long story.
I'm gonna pat him on the shoulder. Just give him a real nice look in the eyes.
I want to continuously stare at him and not move. find my scum here?
I don't know, Hershey.
Ooh, we're leaving now.
He closes his book with a finalized kind of look and
Wait, does that mean
puts his legs back up and it
wait.
goes to ignoring you.
Wait, so like,
He's currently ignoring you.
so if I'm a Hershey, I'm the level 2, but if I'm Orion, I'm the level 1.
You're not real. Orion is. Ooh. Best I can tell.
You don't know that, actually, though.
I'm gonna keep patting his shoulder.
We have ways of finding out. It's not torture, don't get ahead of yourself.
I'm gonna try and stroke him on the cheek.
Just kind of takes your hand and just kind of like,
I advise you all to leave.
Why are you so interested in my identity?
I'm gonna.
I'm
Because
a
you
good person.
provided a fake one
But
to
regardless,
the Lord's
I'm
Adventurers Guild.
good. Who's the Lord again?
Lords plural.
Lords? Who are they?
The Alliance
Hey,
of Lords.
lords.
You're repeating the same
Several.
thing.
Get
Why-
out.
Ryan, we can talk about it later.
I'm just
Let's
gonna
leave.
kind of grab Orion and start pulling.
alright. As you guys exit the Adventurers Guild,
That was the that
Feeling-
face was perfect.
feeling a little bit better about yourselves, it's
Except
about...
me.
Yeah, except for you.
Feeling about the
Um,
same, if not worse.
However,
I
having
hide
assumed
my,
you...
like, scum tree behind
No, you don't have the new one.
Oh.
You just have the lead. But the rest of you are now copper, and Argon's gonna like... Still not good.
I lick
I'll
mine.
trade you.
Argon, technically yours
No.
is null as well.
That's not the point.
I want
start
to.
point
I want
is-
to go
I'm
into
gonna
the
start
door.
walking
Hey,
back
hey.
towards
He grabs you by the shirt. The point is, he's shorter than you, so he's holding like way up here.
I'm gonna start walking back towards the adventures.
No,
immediately.
he misses for you.
Do it.
I'm gonna go
Why are you
in
doing
there.
You go in. Easy just... What now?
It's
He
not
also
him.
gave you a fake name, the little one.
Yeah. We don't know who he actually is, though.
Yeah, we don't know.
Everyone come back in here.
He
I
brings
kind
you
of
back
like
in.
out the door, just kind of motion like a yeah, yeet inside, bitch.
Dr. Shubin!
As he calls for a moment, and after a few minutes, a guy in like a kind of dirty gray robe with basically dreadlocks comes out. What? What?
He
Nice
gave
to
a
Adventure-
fake name.
Just like
As he looks to Captain Hoffman. Truth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
As he casts Zone of Truth, if you choose to resist, you can. If so, make a Wisdom saving throw.
I do.
If not, you don't resist. You're resisting?
14.
14?
Yes.
As
Every
Why?
campaign.
Why?
When
Why
this-
are you resisting?
Because
you already told
Orion
them who you are.
would be uncomfortable with them wanting to know so much about him because he doesn't think it's important.
You fail.
Oh.
You for the moment, all of you can't lie.
So when I was born.
Most of you can't lie.
Damn it.
Stop!
To your knowledge, you
Oh
don't.
my
You
God.
don't actually know. I like messing with you guys.
Ugh.
So I don't not know where Orion is. And he may not be me.
That's... No.
Do you have any questions?
Is
for
your
us?
name Orion?
Yes.
Is your name Simon?
Yes.
Your name is Kepesk. Your name is Acererak.
My name is Groot.
As Argon just kind of like, no. Eravik. As he gives to the guy. Right. Welcome to Scum tier. As he also gives Argon.
Yeah! What's there?
Yeah! Just like, I'm actually just like that one. Like,
as he hands it to him. He takes it and kind of does that. Re-signs a contract, gives it back. Now, be gone with you. Go do good or something, I guess. Please stop bothering me.
I'm a yeet outside.
Yeah,
You head out. Okay. By this point, it's about mid-evening. Like early.
Arabic? Was that another lie?
Wait, are you actually like? Are you embarrassed of your name?
Make an insight check, everybody.
Back at him again with the nat ones.
All right.
Oh, is that a...
18.
I can't tell if that's a plus... That's a plus 2.
Alright, 14.
So 14.
Yeah. Fix that.
Oh. That's a fat natural 1.
Ooh!
As Argon or Arvik, whoever he is seemingly caught up in his own web of lies,
You don't have.
tangled by threads that he doesn't remember weaving. He looks to you just kind of...
If it's something personal, like deeply personal, it's a name.
I'm gonna pick him
I
up
don't know
from
who
like
you
under,
are.
like by the armpits and just like,
Why?
who are you? Like pull him as close to my face as I can. Just, who are you?
I'm not sure.
You don't. Oh.
But at this point, I hope I can say your friend.
Why that name though?
I like just right on the cheeks.
Oh.
And I set him down.
Why that name though? That's.
First
like
thing that came to mind.
Sebastian. The book series, Argon.
What?
What?
Aragon.
There's also a book
That
series.
doesn't
Argon.
exist in this universe.
He gets a nosebleed, like, what is going on? This is weird.
Look,
Done.
alright.
Let's
What should we call you?
Yeah. What are you comfortable with?
leave town.
Aragon.
Oh, okay.
Let's leave town. Let's take on... Let's get the fungus.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
But he's just to get the funk out of you.
No.
Let's
Okay.
go somewhere where
Guys.
it's less populous.
Yeah, we can. We need to talk.
We do.
We all need to speak with one another about things.
I'm gonna pick
I
him up
kinda
again and
don't
just
know
start
what
walking towards the front.
Alright, you can... This isn't necessary. You can put me
I
down.
put him on my shoulders.
This... Oh...
I hold him very uncomfortably tight by like the mid arm, like
You're
this as I walk out of
down.
time. Yeah, like holding him. Like
I can
this.
see a lot up here. That way. as he points you on.
I do.
Alright,
I do.
as you follow in that direction, you guys exit the town, begin heading off in the direction that you just kind of assume is hopefully where the somewhere where some cave entrance may be, heading off towards the high forest. I suppose I should have considered the fact that we didn't ask for any directions or where a cave is. We should talk to some dwarves.
I'm gonna head
That
back.
way.
I'm gonna just
points directly the opposite direction that you were walking.
I'm gonna just yeet
All
back
right.
around and keep
Um,
follow.
Let's see. Given that Argon is currently on your shoulders, you go ahead and just make a... Well, no, he'll do it because he's up there. He's going to do it with advantage because you're helping him. As you just kind of eventually, you walking around, find your way, him still on your shoulders, you make your way to the back of the town, essentially, where you find it just sort of sloppily kind of... There is just a mine shaft just kind of there. Basically just in the side of the wall as it's just kind of built in. Immediately next to it is this kind of ramshackle hut that looks like it was just kind of slapped together with some 2x4s. Ye olde 2x4s. That was just kind of placed there. And you see there's a dwarf just kind of like sitting there with a small tankard in his hand inside. Just sitting there bored and tired looking as it just kind of takes a slow sip.
I would like to approach. I don't have my hat on anymore, so
Alright,
I mean just actual like I just want to wear this hat in real life. But
Sure. But you are currently
yes.
Orion.
Yes.
Alright. Would you
and
walk up?
I'm going to approach and be like, "Have you seen any glowing mushrooms?"
as you kind of knock on the door, he just kind of like gets up, opens it, looks up in surprise. Still looks very bored, but slightly surprised at looking at you.
Mushrooms, glowing. Seen them?
Mushrooms.
Or just fungi?
What are they called?
Not in these mines.
What are they called?
Your keen mind recalls that they are Philobyletus Pelessins. Pelessins. I can give you how to spell that if you want it.
I can guess.
Yeah, you don't really need the exact spelling.
I tell them.
You tell them about the quest?
Yeah,
Okay.
I explain and I tell them the name.
Well, probably not going to find anything around these mines. There's not much but some pink quartz, coal. Nothing interesting here. But, I tell you what, there's some really brilliant caves just on the edge of the high forest. If you...
God damn it. I want to give him a silver.
Thank you. As if you just make your way in, it's right by the path. There's some ruins in that sort of general area. It's a little... If you go past that slightly...
Do you want to come with us?
No.
Oh. Do you have anyone that wants to come with us?
We don't
No.
need more people.
I'm short-staffed as it is. But just past that, there's a cave.
Okay, so edge of high forest, past ruins.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll
Bye.
Get back.
I just gave him the silver because
We were.
Farewell.
Can I? It's a side note. Can I tell it?
Sure.
We were visiting my sister, shortly after she got surgery, and she was still like sleeping, and she, because she had just fallen asleep, and she was like kind of snoring, and she was like talking in her sleep because she was still kind of under the effects of the anesthesia, and she was very quietly, "Whoa." And we lost it.
Oh, but that's
It was
still not gonna
terrible.
make sense on. Oh,
Yeah.
Can't explain
that's okay.
it.
All
I
right.
refuse to.
Last campaign in jokes. That's all you get.
Whoa.
All right. As you, getting strange looks the whole way, eventually exit the town, start heading in that direction. Continue on for some time. Argon never at any point like offers to get down or anything.
And I refuse to offer
At a certain point, coming in from the south, from the direction of the High Moor, you eventually see what appears to be a cart being pulled by a single horse. There's, a few bags and things laid on it. You hear laughter and happy people as you take a look at this cart. Everybody, just go ahead and make a perception check.
Ooh,
6.
21.
21.
13.
13. Taking a look at this, you see that on this particular cart, there is a silver dragonborn wearing some white robes and carrying a staff. There is what seems to be an elvish, very nature-based. She's wearing a lot of like flower. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Flower type materials, just very, very natural, very druidic. There is another seemingly somewhat elvish figure-like person immediately next to her. Also a girl. Seems to be wearing like a dark cloak and has a bow slung over her back and quiver. Down, kind of walking next to the cart, is this big Goliath with a large, a really large great sword on his back. He's just kind of talking to his friend as, like on the center of the cart.
Is this D&D online, or is this another party?
as there is what seems to be a human with a anime style with a long sword strapped on his back. As he's just kind of remember when she shot the goblin and his friend went, "No, Jerry!" That was... They catch sight of you and immediately like just go silent. There's
There's just mean glares from everyone as they kind of take notice of you as fellow adventurers. As you what?
Can I return a mean?
Yeah, you return mean glares, and they seem to, you see around their necks are similar various few different plates. They seem to be better than yours, but you aren't quite sure what tier they might be. As they're just kind of like they're just kind of staring at you like suspiciously and also angrily as they eventually pass you and move on.
We're on their turf.
as they head back towards the direction of Succumber.
This is my territory, bitch.
Right. They're coming from the High Moor. As you guys
They're
eventually...
entering my territory.
No, they weren't. They weren't even close.
From drawing that map, I'm really glad that when you say place names, my brain sees the map.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I can show you guys in a minute. Hello, precious viewers. This is a quick aside from your Dungeon Master. I unfortunately cannot insert any kind of image of the map of the Sword Coast of Faerun that we're using for this campaign. But if you simply Google image search the map of Faerun, that's Faerun, you will find exactly what we're talking about. We have one hung up on our wall, and we use it to reference where we are in the game. In this case, talking about the High Moor to the south, directly below Succumber. Succumber being right about in the middle, near that big patch of green. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. That is all. Eventually, the day comes to a close. As you make your way, sit down, have a nice seat. Eventually, a little ways off the trail. Sit down. Argon is quiet during this, and as you sit and prepare a campsite as night eventually falls, you consider what you've experienced and what you've been through over the past few days, and kind of knowing each other as this ragtag team has joined together, and you think back on your experience, and as you do, welcome to level 4.
Yay!
Yeah, level 4! Alright, and with that,
Gross.
what are we calling this one? We're calling this Another Aside. Hello again, sorry for the interruption, but for anyone who cares, the character sheets of the characters at level 4 will be available on most of our social media sites. You can find us at Session Zero Show on Twitter and Instagram. That's where we post most of our stuff. We have a Facebook page, but no one uses Facebook, so anyone who cares, that will be available there. And as the campaign progresses, I'll insert images of the updated styles of the characters and their new level character sheets as they progress. But for now, it's available there. Thanks very much for listening.
What was that thing that Argon said that was really sweet?
I don't know.
I don't know,
It was,
but-
I don't know, but I hope your friend, or something like that. It doesn't make
Yeah, it
sense
doesn't make
without
sense.
context.
Friendship achieved.
Welcome to Scum tier.
Welcome to Scum Dude.
Welcome
Alright.
to Scum Tier Part 2.
Yeah.
Mighty
Alright.
Morphin Lizard Folk.
Alright, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. Find out next week what Argon's real name is.
No.
No, you won't. Just kidding. Argon's real name? Question mark, question mark, question mark, all caps. You won't believe, in
Number
parentheses.
20 will shut
Watch till end.
Watch till
Name
end.
number 20 will shock you.
Alright, bye.